Yeah, as that big picture up there shows, my name's Paul Rayment. I work for a company called Footballco. I'm the PR manager. If you've not heard of us before, it probably means I need to do my job better. But it may mean that you might know some of our brands. So we own various football media brands. Goal, Football Zone is probably won't be familiar with the audience here, considering we're in the Netherlands. Mundial in Divisa, Cora in the Middle East, a whole heap of them. But in doing that, it means we reach a whole load of fans, about 800 million a month. So we know a thing or two about creating good content, as do our two guests here, with a rather nice segue from myself. We have Mike Armstrong, Juventus' Chief Marketing and Communications Officer, and Marco Castellaneta, the club's Head of Digital Media. I didn't butcher your name there, did I, Marco? A nice little aside, everyone has a little SoccerX story. My career in football/media began actually about 8 or so years ago. One of the very first events I attended was SoccerX Europe in Manchester. Skip ahead about 7, 8 years, about 6, 9 months ago. I was on a call with Juventus, and Marco's head pops up, and he's like, I recognize you from somewhere. And we try to go through careers. Was it this company or that company? So, oh, no, it wasn't. It was at SoccerX 8 years ago. So flip forwards. We're now in the Amsterdam Arena, Johan Cruyff Arena, sorry, on the same stage. So it works. There's a reason for all of this. Before we get into the questions, this is about the Juventus Creator Lab. There's a rather nice video that kind of shows what it's really about. And I think if we could fire that up now, that'd be a great way to start. Thank you. That's great. Also seems to have got more people in the room. The sound must have carried through. Mike, many clubs have a media house. I've been to many of them. I know Marco's set some up in the past before. But this is obviously more than a media house. How would you describe what the Creator Lab is?
So the Creator Lab is many things. I mean, first it's a group of people, and so there's a hardworking team that works within the Juventus Creator Lab. It's a distinct commercial proposition, and so we see it as something that's different, it's unique within the football and maybe, if we can say, sports industry. But it's as you saw, it's a different take, and so we got inspired a lot by the creator economy, and so our inspiration came from a LA-style YouTuber house or a gaming or esports studio. What you don't see is a traditional sports desk with, forgive me for saying, but the stereotypical white man sitting behind it. I mean, it's really taking inspiration from the creator economy, but infusing that into the football industry. And so that's really what we've been going for.
So in terms of the content, we'll have a look at some of the content later. In terms of the content coming out of it, I mean, many clubs, big, small, they're creating content, but most of it seems to revolve either around branded content for brand partners or match content. Not necessarily kind of highlights, but content which still revolves around the 90 minutes kind of pre or post match. The content coming to the Creator Lab is quite different. You have things like documentaries that show the segue between football and fashion. You have freestyler documentaries and competitions. You've had the Juventus legends having dinner, which is a rather charming video. Even it's in Italian and you need subtitles, but it's a rather nice film. Why are you creating that kind of content and not so much focusing on the match day content?
Yeah, so we're pretty data oriented. We did a lot of research and we keep doing it. One of the insights we saw very early on was that amongst young audiences, the top driver for why they follow clubs now is content. And so in the past, it used to be your dad or your mom followed a club, and if you didn't, get out of the house. Now, content is a main driver. It's the top driver of why young people follow sports organizations. And so we started from a place of that puts content on a pedestal and makes it much more important in terms of how we still tell stories. The second was we saw in a lot of research feedback that we weren't servicing the global fan base that we have. And so we're around 170 million on social media. We're 90% outside of Italy, and roughly 40% under 24. And so we're a very big global brand with a very diverse subset of audiences, which some may not know. And so we had to figure out how do we tackle that very diverse audience. And then we got a lot of feedback that fans wanted to see more than the 90 minutes. The more than 90-minute content was becoming much more important in the daily lives. If we look internationally, I mean, some of our fans, they can't watch our matches. They're just not in the right time zone. Or maybe the broadcast rights aren't there. And so really, we've invested heavily in building more content that's outside of the 90 minutes. And so I'd say that's the first part. The second is Juventus as a brand, as a position to take. And so we've been taking that position years back when we went through our new logo design and our rebrand. And so there's also other reasons that we go into, say, fashion to reinforce a brand position. But really it was, I'd say, audience-led first, and then anything that we do related to brand is probably secondary.
Okay, so last time I was in Turin with the pair of you, you just released the Chiesa documentary, Back on Track, or it was kind of quite recently out. Mark, I'm going to ask you afterwards about this, kind of take us through some of the more recent content. But we have another video which shows some of that. If we could fire that up, please.
I have to show you something. Let's move on.
I'm sure we could do 45 minutes just on the content that was up there, but could you maybe talk me through some of your favorite pieces, maybe some of the most interesting clips that we saw there? What kind of things are you doing?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Yeah, we saw a lot of long-form productions that we've been developing in the last 12, 15 months. We work a lot, of course, as everyone, on short forms, but we work a lot on long forms as well. And we saw here a lot of different long forms that we produced that were distributed in different ways. So we sold 2 of them to Amazon Prime Video. They were like translated into 10 languages and distributed all over the Amazon Prime video markets around the world. One was, as you mentioned before, was more related to the pitch side, and it was the story of Federico Chiesa. He was just like the hero of the last Euro Cup, as you know. And he got like a serious injury, and he was forced out a few months after winning the Euro Cup for like 9 months. And in those 9 months, we followed him. We followed literally him wherever, and we produced like a 90-minute documentary that was then sold and distributed on Amazon Prime Video. The other one on Amazon Prime Video is a completely different topic. It's not the pitch side, but it's more like the brand side. And we told the story of the collaboration that we did with Gianpaolo Sgura, who is like a very famous Italian fashion photographer. And we told the story of the activation that Juventus did with Gianpaolo Sgura at the Milan Fashion Week. So you see like two long forms, but two completely different topics. One is more related to like a player and the pitch. The other one is more related to like the brand side. We developed 8 YouTube originals, so long forms that we distributed on YouTube. Different kind of stories, not really always the first team, the man first team, which is the most popular one, but we developed stories around like the women first team, the next gen, which is like the Juventus second team playing in third division, the under 19. Whenever we select like, whenever we want to do like a long form, I mean, the character is not like the driver is the story. So, I mean, we want to tell big stories, not big characters, you know. We developed stories around Sara Gunnarsdottir was one of the original. Sara is a player of Juventus women, and he told us the story of how to be like a mom and an athlete at the same time, spreading like a very, very interesting message and useful message to all the women that want to be like mom and athletes at the same time. Another one was the story of Dauda Peters. He's not even playing in Juventus right now. He's playing like in a second division, in team playing in second division in Italy, but his story is amazing. I mean, he had like a serious health problem. He risked his life, and then like by a miracle, he went back, he recovered, and he went back being a football player, not a good or a bad football player, but just a football player, which was like his goal. And we told his story. And another one was on the Marco da Graca, the striker of the Juventus Next Gen, playing in third division. Amazing story. He was raised in Sicily, in the outskirts of Palermo, and football saved his life in a way because the situation that he had there was very, very difficult. So I'm saying this because I didn't mention Cristiano Ronaldo, Pogba, or Di Maria. I mentioned Sara Gunnarsdottir, Marco da Graca, and Dauda Peters, not because they are like superstars. Maybe they will be superstars, but the superstars was the story, you know, and that's why we selected the story. And the third type of long form that you saw in the video is like a completely different one, is like a long form that we produced for TikTok. Actually, we partnered with TikTok last year. TikTok is pushing a lot now with long forms, but we tested long forms with TikTok 1 year ago now. And they said like, okay, you know what, we're testing the format, the long form. We are doing something with Paris Hilton in US. We're doing something with Amazon Prime, the LOL format on TikTok. We said like, have you ever done anything with in sport? No, okay, we want to be the first one. And we were like the first football club worldwide to develop like a TikTok series conceived vertically and distributed exclusively on TikTok, which is a long form, 5 episodes of 5 minutes, you know. Season 1 on the next gen, second team of Juventus, season 2 on the first team, season 3 of the women first team, you know. So I'm saying this because we work on long form, but there are a lot of different kind of long forms that can be distributed in many ways.
So you've made an interesting point there with regards to kind of the players that you're focused on, the stories that are kind of almost kind of transcending the talents. So who's this content for? Because if you were going after maybe your traditional Juventus fan, they might want to hear stories about the first team. Are you trying to attract new fans? Are you trying to attract kind of the fashion curious who might be attracted by Paolo Sgura and his story? What's the aim in terms of kind of fan engagement? Your fans, somebody else's fans, young fans?
Well, I have to say that one of the things that you realize when you work for like such a big club as Juventus is that there are a lot of type of fans. There isn't one fan, but fans are very different from each other. You know, we tend to see and to think that the fans of Juventus or the fan of any football club are the one that you see at the stadium every Sunday. You know, so those like 40,000, 50,000 that they are there, but they're like just like a small piece of the cake. Then there is all the rest, as Mike was saying, under 70 million followers, 90% is international, and so when you travel, when you see them, you really understand that there are a lot of type of fans. I think that one of the first thing that we did, and that everyone, in my opinion, should do, is working on a fact segmentation, so understanding who there is on the other side, you know, because context is everything, in my opinion, you know, so you never have to lose context, you know, so the first thing you have to do, you have to understand who is on the other side, and once you know who is on the other side, you build the channel strategy according to what there is on the other side, you know. This is exactly what we did, and this is what we want to do, in order not to lose context. We want to train our content managers of the Juventus Creator Lab. They're all very young. I have to say average age is like 25, so it's all very young, but they have to understand how to treat content in 2024. So what does that mean? That you have to take the what, and then you have to change the how according to the channel where we are distributing the how. So how are you able to distribute like the same communication, the same message, but in different ways according to the target of the platforms in which you are distributing it. This is how we act, and this is how we train our content team. Because to answer to your question, like the fan base of Juventus is huge, and there are a lot of type of fans that have to be engaged in different ways.
So going back to the drone video we had at the start, showed a lot of people, and one thing that was quite interesting was they aren't the people who when I've been to Juventus and seen the people working in your media center, these are different people. These are the content creators. Is that now a new way of working? Are these people, are the content creators that you're working with, are they now more kind of co-workers rather than competitors now? Is that a big differentiator in what you're doing? That's to Mike, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, we've brought them in-house because, if you look at who the heroes of content are today, it's creators. It's not sporting organizations. And so if you look across YouTube, you look at Twitch, you look at really where the growth is coming, creators are driving global growth in content. And so a lot of clubs will see that as competition, and they should. But you can either embrace that competition and learn from them, or you can keep them outside and push them out. And so, that's why we chose the name Creator, and Juventus Creator Lab is really embrace the creator ecosystem and build that in-house, learn from them. And so we've certainly hired and we've partnered with influencers, and so we have endemic influencers that have following of themselves that work for us. We've brought in one person who built the biggest Juventus fan channel, Instagram. Now he works for Juventus as a full-time employee. And so we've really embraced this creator economy, and we continue to learn from them as opposed to seeing them as a directly competition.
So Marco, going back to you, while creator-led content it's not necessarily not premium content, does working with creators change the perception of what you're looking for in terms of content? Does everything now have to be premium like you'd get on an Amazon Prime documentary?
Well, it depends on what the word premium means, in my opinion. What does premium means? Is like a premium content, a content that has been produced with like a very, very big production, or is premium a content that performed well? In our opinion, as Mike was saying, we're like data driven. So for us, is premium whatever it works well in terms of metric that generate, And sometimes, you don't need like a big production, I remember when I joined Juventus 2.5 years ago, and after a few months, we faced my first at Juventus transfer market campaign, which is always like a very, very important moment, because like the content that you produce during the market transfer campaign, you already know that are the content that will perform the best in the season, because it's always like a moment there is a lot of curiosity, and those pieces of content are generate always like the best metric of the season. And it was like a pretty intense transfer market campaign. And I remember when players arrived, you have a new signing, but you don't have a lot of time. So imagine you have like 20 minutes. If you're lucky, thanks to Mike, 30 minutes maybe. It's like wow, And it's like, okay, in those 30 minutes, you have like to do everything, and you have to optimize like each second. And the plan was, okay, for the first 15 minutes out of 20, we have like a very, very big production, like lights, 18 cameras, drones, and everything, because we have to make to produce the hero video, And then the last 3, 4, 5 minutes, it's like, okay, it's for TikTok, and it's mobile shot content, because we still have like 2-3 minutes, and we optimize the time. I said, oh, okay. And then when you distribute those content, you realize that 95% of the metrics that you generate around the communication of that player was generated through the mobile shot video and not through the hero content. So we completely like changed it, So now we have like 20 minutes. We use 15 minutes for content shot with mobile phones or creators. And we don't do hero content anymore, or maybe we try to do a hero content with the rest of the time, because if you are data-driven, you have to act this way, and those content shot with mobile phone is, in my opinion, the premium content because of the metrics that is able to generate.
So, my next question was going to be about the types of content, because I know we focused initially on I'm going to call it premium content, the longer form content, whatever you want to call it. But also you're creating the shorter, the social clips, the images, the graphics, everything now that's basically media from Juventus now comes out of the building we saw on the screen earlier. That's correct.
I mean, it's a lot of content. It can be like content more entertaining. It can be content more related to the pitch, so like interviews, highlights, and all that kind of content. But even when you go towards hardcore fans and you produce content really related to what is happening on the pitch for hardcore fans, I think you need to be different. And you need to be complementary to broadcasters, for example. The pitch, okay, and the game is something that, from a content perspective, is 100% owned by broadcasters. They invest a lot of money. They have like big production companies there. I used to work for a broadcaster, so I saw like the effort that they put on a game. And a club cannot replicate that model because you will always be worse than a broadcaster when it comes to that kind of content. So even when you talk about players, interviews, highlights, and that kind of stuff, I think you need to be able to do something different, you know. So pre-match show, post-match show, if you have the broadcaster doing it, you cannot do the same because the broadcaster will have like the host more famous than your host, the camera better than your camera. So you don't want to do that thing worse than them, you know. You want to do something that can be complementary so that the user can, you know, follow the broadcaster, but also follow you because your content proposition is complementary and different.
Mike, let's talk money. Now,
Perfect.
good time. There's been a lot. It'd be weird if we didn't kind of bring this up. These kind of projects obviously have a budget attached to them. You've got to get buy-in from your CRO, your CEO, a multitude of other people, I presume, back in Turin. How do you convince them that you need this?
So I guess the first to oversimplify is just relevancy. I mean, and so just to build on that, a bit of background on myself. I'm new to the football industry. I joined Juventus 3 years ago, actually just under that. And so I certainly have blind spots because I'm new to the industry, but I have call it a great naivety in that I spent the 6 years prior at Google, closely on the YouTube side of the business, and then a few years at an esports startup where I was an early member. And so my entrance into football gives me every day a really great sense of urgency. I don't see enough of it in the industry. I think we need to fight a lot harder for relevancy. And so the first point was if we're not building Juventus Creator Lab, and we're not increasing the quantity and frequency, and we're not telling stories in a different way, then we become less relevant. Both Juventus, both Serie A, as well as football overall. And so as an industry, we have to fight. It's been said many times, but we're fighting against, I mean, gaming, influencers, Amazon, DAZN, Netflix, I mean, pick the media, we fight with it all. And so the first point for me was, look, do we want to be relevant or not? And if we do, then we have to change the way we do things. And so that was the first part. The second, from a commercial point of view, is through building this, first, we can deliver a lot back to our partners. And so our existing sponsors, existing partners that are with us, we track and we measure, as Marco said, we track everything, but we measure year over year the growth of the value of our digital ecosystem. And so we can see that the activities that we're doing are having a material impact on the value delivery back to our existing partners, and we set KPIs against that. And so first we've got this, call it non-direct, but we've got this value delivery that goes back to our existing partners. And then the second is we become a brand that has so many more IPs that we can offer up to the market. And so both, first, we can do a lot more things that we used to not be able to do, as Marco outlined, but everything becomes an IP. And so whether it's a freestyle football collaboration, whether it's the entirety of the Juventus Creator Lab, whether it's long form or short form content, I mean, those are all new IP that didn't exist for Juventus a year ago. And so, so there's both indirect and then direct commercial upside to what we're doing. And then I'd say, first and foremost, we have to fight for relevancy. And so that's the most, I'd say, meaningful selling point that helped us really move forward on the mission to build this.
You mentioned growth. Marco, going over to you. What kind of growth have you seen in over the past 2 seasons, 24 months?
Yeah, I have to say we are happy because we were able to grow, let's say generally speaking, in like a period of time in which results on pitch were not the best for Juventus. You know, I mean, when myself and Mike joined the company, more or less, it was like the first season without Cristiano Ronaldo. You know, and it was the first season for Juventus not winning any, let's say, very relevant trophy in leagues. So. Everything that we were able to achieve, we were able to achieve that like not like in the best moment from a performance perspective. I have to say, in the last 2 years, we are happy to have been among the clubs with the highest growth rate when it comes to number of followers, you know, so followers growth, plus 44% in 2 seasons. We also increased the media value by 40% in 2 seasons, which is something that, in my opinion, make the other number not a vanity number, you know. So you don't give for granted if you grow in terms of followers, you also grow the media value. Sometimes it's not really like that. So we were able to grow and to increase both numbers, which in my opinion, it was like a pragmatic sign of what we did. We increased by 160% in 2 years the number of video views we were able to generate on our content ecosystem. This season we generated almost 5 billion video views across the 16 social media that we have at the moment. And even in terms of engagement, we're growing that number. I mean, we this season generated 500 million interactions on our content ecosystem, more than 500 million interactions, more than last year, more than 2 years ago. That's a little bit the challenge that you have, you know, when you work for a club. I worked for brands in the past, and the management of the metrics and the KPIs of social media ecosystem was, in a way, a little bit more under control because it more depended on you. You know, whereas when you work for a football club and you have like KPIs that says like that every year you have to grow, but then maybe 1 year you reach the Champions League final and you have Cristiano Ronaldo, and the year after you don't reach the Champions League final, you don't have Cristiano Ronaldo, but you have to grow. How do you do that? You know, which is something that is not happening when you work for, let's say, a brand. You know, and that's one of the main challenges that I think any marketer have that work in football. You know, how you grow and how you try to detach yourself from what is happening on the pitch, which is something that you don't really control.
If I could jump in on that one, I think in the industry we hear a lot. Okay, you're growing on social media, the metrics are up, but you're not actually monetizing. That's not monetization. Really, I think we need to change the discussion because we need to grow where the audiences are, and then if we can deliver value back, then we're monetizing. I think it's a really dated way to look at the industry and say your metrics are growing on social media, your engagement's up, your views are up, not monetizing. If you're giving value back to your partners and you're growing your ecosystem, then you're monetizing your audience. It's just different, and so it's something that I hear a lot, and I think we need to course correct just how we talk about monetization.
Going back to you, Mike. I mean, Marco alluded to it there with discussion about Ronaldo. I mean, it's very hard to replace a player like Ronaldo. But over the years, it's been quite clear as well that Juventus's profile on the pitch in terms of players has changed. It's changed quite a bit. Players have retired, your likes of your Chiellinis, Bonucci's have moved on. And then the likes of your Moretti's, Yildiz, Cambiasso, Fagioli, the younger players have came through. Is there a degree that the work of the Creator Lab can help kind of mitigate for what you're losing in terms of the profile, or even help build those players' profiles as well?
Yeah, I think it's both. I mean, as Marco said, when you join a company and you see 600 million of digital reach leave, you need to find a new solution. And so we've seen and we've proven that. And so I mean, when I sit down and discuss with our CEO and he sees that we're growing when we have those big audiences leave, that's actually creating a healthy business. That's a sustainable business. That's one that's not reliant on strictly players and performance. If we build a business and if all we do is rely on players and performance, then we're not doing our jobs because those things are volatile. You can't predict a player. Maybe they get injured, maybe they get traded, maybe performance works or it doesn't. And so that's out of our control. And so we need to make sure that we build a business that's not so volatile and counterbalance that volatility in the Juventus organization. And so we've seen that. Of course, with the media ecosystem that we've built, if you're a new player, I mean, you've got another great advantage to come to Juventus. I mean, you can now be a part of the Juventus Creator Lab. We're going to promote you absolutely across all of our channels and with our partners. And so we absolutely have an opportunity to grow some of those new players and make them well known around the world.
And you're not doing this alone. You're the two on stage, but there's other people that you are working with on this. Can you tell us a bit about the partners that are helping you kind of amplify this and drive it across?
We have a lot of actually content partners. I would mention the first one, TikTok. I know TikTok works with all the football clubs, but they don't partner with all the football clubs. They just partnered with us this year, and they become one of the partners of our women first team. So actually, they become our sleeve partners. So if you see like the shirt of the women first team, there is like a TikTok patch on the sleeve saying like follow us on TikTok. And we were very happy about that because, I mean, they wanted to partner with us in a way because they saw that through us they could, deliver like the right messages, you know. So TikTok is literally one of our partners. Another partner I would mention is the World Football Freestyle Association. We have been media partner of the World Cup of Football Freestyle. So the World Cup of Football Freestyle was broadcast live on our TikTok channel. And this is something that we did again with one of our partners, TikTok, and the World Football Freestyle Association. And it was like something interesting because it was like the club becoming a media and becoming a media partner of a competition, you know. And together with TikTok and the World Football Freestyle Association, we also launched like a freestyle challenge last year, and we nominated our first ever official Juventus freestyler, who becomes our freestyler and a creator, you know. So we have like the players, we have the creators, and we have also like a freestyler that literally sign a contract with us for the first time in the industry and become one of us, you know. So Freestyle is another partner. Stardust is another important partner for us. Stardust is the main Italian talent house. So they have a lot of creators, you know, and we partner with them and with their creators, which support us throughout the entire year, amplifying like a lot of different messages. We partner with Celine Dept. For the ones who don't know, Celine Dept is probably the main sport YouTuber worldwide at the moment. You know, she's massive. She has more than 30 million subscribers on her channel, and she alone is able to generate an average of 40 million views on YouTube every day. Only her, you know, so she's amazing, and we are happy that we partner with her, and she will become from July the 1st the main face of the Juventus Creator Lab, and she will be our host on many activities that we will stream on our social media. Another partner, I mentioned them because they're based here in Amsterdam, is 433. We partnered with them and with FTBL, which is the biggest football community in North America. You know, so it's Stardust, it's Celine Dept, it's 433, FTBL, the Freestyle Association, TikTok, you know. So the Juventus Creator Lab is composed by a bunch of different content partners. They can be like communities or creators or an association or a platform itself that help us build like this big media network that together with the Juventus Media Network communicate to our global fan base.
One thing we've not mentioned, it wasn't actually included in the video either, in the sizzle we saw earlier, is I would say probably one of the most interesting things you're working on, because it's quite different than the rest of your content, and that's Team J. Do you want to give us a little bit of a rundown on what it is? Because I guess most people, unless you have kids who live in Italy or are Juventus fans, you may not be aware of it.
Yeah, so if you were to guess the most ever viewed YouTube video of Juventus, you'd probably suspect it would be Ronaldo, but actually it's a cartoon animated zebra. And so most people aren't aware that we have an animated show. We launched it a few years ago. Team J does phenomenally well. I mean, it's a top 50 YouTube show for kids worldwide. And if you look at the data behind, again, what brings young audiences in, kids choose a club between the ages of 6 and 10 years old. Their first now media that they consume is YouTube, and whether it's a parent tablet or one that they already own, they're on it. And so Juventus has a kids animated show that's in 5 different languages, expanding to 7. We just launched actually last week the season 2, and so we've been dark for a few years and it's back. And we've got a significant push against Team J over the next years because we see it as a great asset to bring kids into the Juventus family. The show isn't about football, and so it's really focuses on values, and so it's about sportsmanship, it's about diversity, inclusion, it's about sustainability. But it's if you haven't seen it, it's not a heavy lift to watch. It's quite entertaining. I mean, it's built to be fun, but it's a show that we have, and again, another IP that in this most recent season we've included some of our partners, and so you see actually Adidas in this kids show. We've got the Alliance Stadium that's animated in 3D, and with the evolution of AI. There's a lot more we can do from a 3D animation perspective that we couldn't do 3 or 4 years ago when we first launched it. And so now we're also experimenting quite a bit on how we can take 3D animated kids figures, whether it's a zebra or a squirrel, and apply an AI effect to integrate them more within Juventus.
So that's, I don't know, but quite new news, really, isn't it? That's kind of season 2 being launched. You've got the venue, you've got the creators, you've got the content. What's next? What's the next 2 years compared to the previous 2? Marco, you take that one. Mike's pointing to you.
The most difficult question for me, why? I mean, is
Yeah.
no. I mean, that's a good point. Actually, what we love about the Juventus Creator Lab and the way it was built is that it's not really related to what happened on the pitch, you know, because this is something we cannot control. So, I mean, we want the Juventus Creator Lab to work if we win the Champions League. We want this to work if we don't win the Champions League, and we want this to work even if we don't play the Champions League. Hopefully, we will always play the Champions League, but we really want to that this project is a project that works anyhow, whatever will be like our destiny on the pitch, because as we say, this is not something in our control. So I think that our main goals are like 2, and they're like a little bit synergic, symbiotic in a way. One is we want to grow, and we want to stay relevant, and we want this project to work whatever happens on the pitch. Because football is about cycles, you know, you can win, maybe sometimes you don't win, but I mean, if you have like a project that is working when you don't win, for sure it will work when you win. So that's what we want. And then on the other side, we want not this project to be a vanity project, but this is not a vanity project. I mean, we don't brand the Creator Lab that way, or we don't partner with creators that way because we want to be cool. We do this with a very, very pragmatic vision, you know, and so that's why we want this project to be like very, very useful when it comes to support the business and generate like new revenues opportunities and new opportunities with partners. This is a little bit why the Juventus Creator Lab is there, you know, to be relevant and to be interesting, whatever happened on the pitch, and to create like new revenues opportunities for the club.
I'm looking at the back of the room. I've got 2 minutes. Do we have time for questions? Thumb up. That sounds good. Where's the roaming mic? Is the roaming mic in the house? Do you want to? Oh, there we go.
Questions? Let's have a look. Yes. Mic check. Hi, I've got 2 questions. One is, Mike, give me your background. What do you think the traditional football clubs should learn from the wider entertainment and media industry? What advice would you give to clubs with traditional mindset? Secondly, so you talked about value, but value is a very subjective matter. So what metric would you use to convince the board or the CEO that your work has been delivering value to the club and to drive the club forward? And what metric would you give to the partners to tell them you have delivered value to them to help them grow their brand and good value on the investment?
Thanks for the question. I guess on the first part, I mean, working at YouTube with many creators all over the world, and then I mean, I was in esports negotiating over Discord with the 19-year-olds. I mean, I spent a lot of time with this is called younger cohort. I think what's most important, and I hear this a lot, is just like bring young people into your businesses and give them a microphone. I think that's my biggest learning. It's not necessarily one content channel strategy versus another. It's just like empower young people in your businesses, and if you don't, you're in a world of trouble. And so I think that's my main takeaway. On the metrics basis, we bring a lot forward. On the partner side, specifically to answer your question there, we certainly work with Nielsen, and so we look at the Nielsen valuations across our digital ecosystem, the value delivery that we see per partner, whether that goes up or goes down, and we keep seeing it go up, and so that's good. So we bring those direct to our partners and to the CEO. Beyond those, of course, we've got a commercial target, so I mean hard revenue that we need to achieve. And then there's the brand and visibility KPIs as well that we track a variety. But I'm happy to share some notes with you on that afterwards if you like.
Another one?
Thank you, Cecil. Nice. Hi guys, UV fan here. From a fan's perspective, I have seen some kind of a change in the club's strategy in the last 2 or 3 years. One of these is actually the Next Gen project, which is something that was not really something associated with Juventus in the past about youth development and stuff like that. So what have the Creator Lab have done when it comes to supporting such a project in Juventus, which is, again, something not really associated with it, but it's something that I believe the management believes in the coming years. What have the Creator Lab have done to support that? Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for the question. I have to say that from a sport perspective, the Next Gen is really a winning project up until now. I mean, you're a Juventus fan, you know. I mean, the Next Gen has been able in the last 2 seasons to provide to the first team, I don't know, maybe 8, 9 players. And this is like, wow, you know, this is a little bit the why we do this. So it's really a winning project that we try to support in many ways. I mean, I think the main way is most of our content pieces are based on the Next Gen. You know, so we told the story of many of our Next Gen teams and the Next itself, like the first ever mini-series that we produced for TikTok, it was around the Next Gen. So we told like the story of the Next Gen, and it generated like million of views, and it's easy to generate million of views when you are the first team, you know, but when you're the Next Gen, you know, the fact to be distributed on a global basis on TikTok and to generate million of views, it's an opportunity for those guys also to, you know, to show them, you know, and to communicate who the Next Gen is. And also like other YouTube originals were based on Next Gen stories. And of course, like the Next Gen team is composed by Gen Z players. They're all very young. They're all very social, I have to say. I mean, they're much more social than the players for the first team. But I guess this is like an age thing. So it's also, I have to say, easier in a way to develop like some crazy project with them, because I mean they understand your language, they speak the same language, they spend a lot of time on digital media, they follow Juventus generally, they follow sometimes a lot of our creators and the creators that work with Juventus. So like developing project with them is it's not forced, it's really credible, because I mean, at the end of the day, they are like part of the audience that we want to reach, and they speak the same language. So we see this match between like Next Gen and digital project very credible and genuine.
I'll just build and continue to play the boring suit and speak about the commercial side. But the stories that we've told on Next Gen, we've seen get picked up all over the world in terms of from a media perspective. And so when I get a call from our sports area saying, hey, I'm getting more interest in your youth players because agents are noticing about them more, because they're getting picked up by ESPN in Brazil, because they got heard of from a YouTube show that Marco's team produced, the value of those youth players goes up. And so the storytelling both helps on build their prominence, but also from a commercial point of view, the more our Next Gen are known, then the higher they're going to be valued. And then the company can make more money. And so there is that side of it as well too.
Okay. Do we have time for one more, Mark? I think it's a thumbs up. I'm taking it as a thumbs up. Yeah. One more from the room. There you go.
Thank you. I have a question about the monetization relationship between the lab and the creators. I'm curious if you're employing all of the creators, or are there also in-house like freelance creators? And if yes, like if the club is benefiting from the content or from the revenue that those creators do?
I have to say it's both of them. Some of our social media managers, as Mike was saying, are creators or former creators that became Juventus employee. So some of them is literally working for Juventus in this part of the stuff. Some of them not, like of course Celine Dept is not like a Juventus employee or like the Stardust guys. I think when it comes to monetization, we are working right now on defining a business model with them, so that when we have like an opportunity to monetize like the media network and the Juventus network, we kind of approach the market together. Imagine like there is a brand on the other side and we propose like a branded content campaign or something like that. It's not only Juventus, but it's Juventus plus the media network, so plus also the creators. And we are working now to find the right business model with creators, so that when it comes to selling something, you know, we know how to approach the market and we know how to monetize it together. But yeah, I mean, to reply to your question, yes, of course. I mean, they are part of our ecosystem. So when we have like a sales opportunity, you know, we approach the market together. So it's because the publishing network is bigger. You know, it's not only Juventus, but it's Juventus plus Celine Dept and the Stardust creators, and we monetize together. And if we monetize together, we're bigger, and the monetization opportunity might be bigger as well.
Thank you.
I never know if a lot of questions means we've done a good job or a bad job, but thanks for everyone for turning up. I've really enjoyed sitting here, so thanks for the opportunity as well. If you'd afford me one more plug, I also produce a podcast. If you search Footballco, it covers very similar topics of what we've discussed here about football media, brand and marketing. That's all I ask. Mike, Marco, anything you want to say? Follow Juventus?
No, thank you much. Thank you very much.